All right, welcome back. This may be the first one you're watching actually. So the last video I did, we just did this cookbook recipe, navigating to a new screen and back. Unfortunately, I selected the wrong microphone, and it's just like laptop noise, like a loud fan the whole time. Can't even hear me, and my laptop's right there. So what we have instead is the result of that video. Is at this link. I'll put it in the notes on the YouTube video, and you can pull this down, and it'll get you this thing here, which is our app. And again, this goes from a first route to a second route, and then you go back. And what we're going to be doing is changing over to auto route, or using auto route 2.3.0 as of August 7th, 2021. Okay, I did explain in the other video why we're doing that. So using Navigator and material page routes, it's kind of like using set state. As soon as your application gets more complex, it's more customary, I think, to use a state management provider or a state management solution to pass state around in your app. In the same way, using the standard Flutter Navigator class and the material page routes, I think it's going to be more cumbersome. There are some good videos that you can check out. I'll show you them here, and then I'll link to them as well. Come on, YouTube. YouTube was actually down the other day, and I think the internet shut down. People stopped being able to learn things. Very, very sad day. Okay, so RezoCoder has a nice video on auto route. I like this one. Zero boilerplate router. He talks about routes originally, and this one definitely makes videos way better than I do, because I don't really want to spend a lot of time doing the editing. I just want to put it out there. So yeah, watch these if you don't know about it yet. It's a little dated because things are moving fast in the Flutter ecosystem, but it'll kind of like get you familiar with the gist of how the thing works, because it hasn't changed that much. Some implementation details have changed. And then there's Johan Jurius. He has some videos. Let's go check that out. So in his playlist called Flutter Course, he has a video. Come on, internet. Come on. Okay. Navigation. So he talks about routes in Flutter. And I think he actually goes in and sets up kind of what auto route or auto route, the package, does for us. So the code that he writes, that this package, I think, generates something either very much like it, if not exactly like it. But instead of typing code, we want this stuff to be generated. Okay, so that's kind of the idea. These are some things you can watch. There's probably some other good resources out there, but a lot of them are dated, is what I found. So we're going to be using our own thing. We're going to be doing it ourselves. Okay, so I will share those with you. In the meantime, let's convert, now that we have our app in this state where we've just completed a first screen and a second screen, what the Flutter team calls routes. We will actually, you can clone this to your machine. Okay, I'm not going to show you how to do that. You can figure that part out. But we're going to be installing auto route 2.3.0. Now, just like with third-party libraries and documentation, it's not always the best. This one's pretty good, actually. It's a very popular package. It has almost 1,000 likes. It has 120 out of a possible 130 points. So that's pretty awesome, right? It's kind of missing some public API Dart doc comments. So if you're looking to make open source contributions, this is your opportunity to go in and submit pull requests to this repository of code to catch this up. There's even an example, but I'll show you something. The example found at the example README is just like your standard example, so it's kind of like not accurate. I'm going to dock him 10 points here and put it at a 110. So you should just know that. And again, like, the reason I'm doing this is because I had trouble getting started with AutoRoot, because some of this can be improved. And maybe as we go along, we will either file issues with the repository or submit our own pull requests, so you'll get to see how that process goes as well. So anyways, there's a lot of material here on the first page, and we're just going to work right through it. Okay? So let's get started. The first thing we want to do is install AutoRoot. So if you go to the installing page, you can either copy and paste this thing, or do Flutter pub add AutoRoot. Okay, this is the one I like to do, just because I like the system to figure out which version I should get. Because I think something like this is just a page of text. If for some reason they leave that off, you know, or they like put in some bad character or the wrong version, if you copy and paste that, it's going to be wrong. But if you use the Flutter pub add, it's going to go find the package and get the right one for your project, I think. Okay, so let's do that. Flutter pub add AutoRoot. And it should add 2.3.0. Okay. Let's go into our pub spec and find it, in fact. Okay, it looks like it added it there. There's a plus sign, and it changed one dependency. All right, there it is. Very cool. I'm not going to do pub get yet because I want to show you something else. So this is on the installing tab here. It doesn't. This is kind of the standard, like, run this command. It'll put this here. Go import it. It's the standard installing verbiage that you see on a package. Instead, that also needs to be updated. So let's go do that later. But for now, you'll see that the real installation here requires two development dependencies. It's auto route generator, okay, and it's going to be the latest version. So we could either copy this over and then copy the version. But what I'd really like to do is, how can I add this the same way? Okay, I'm going to copy this, Command C. And because it's a dev dependency on my local machine, it's not required for users to use my application. I'm going to say Flutter pub add, paste it, and say --dev. I think that's the right way to do it. And it's going to create a dev dependency. So it's going to create an entry here, either above or under Flutter. We'll see what it does. Okay, resolving dependencies, and look, it added a whole bunch of things, 43 dependencies. Okay, those aren't all going to be here. They're going to be in our pubspec.lock, I believe. So let's click back in here. It should update. Okay. Oh, look at that. Wow. It did 210. I think I know why it did that. Yeah. So that's interesting that this would resolve to 2.3 and this would be 2.1. Huh. Let's change this to a 3 because, like it said here, it needs to be the latest version and these should match ideally. So I'm going to replace it with a 3 and say pub get. Okay, let's see what happens. Okay, so this is an interesting error. It says because every version of Flutter from SDK depends on meta 1.3.0 and analyzer. So this is, I think this is like the Dart analyzer. Depends on meta 1.7.0. Let's get this out of the way. Flutter from SDK is incompatible with analyzer greater than or equal to 2. Okay, so auto route generator is 2.3.0, depends on analyzer 2.0. Okay, so it's trying to require meta 1.7.0, but Flutter is currently on meta 1.3.0. So how can we update Flutter? It's already going to get the latest up until and not including version 3.0. Okay, let's find out why. So I'm going to type in, because developers are really just professional Googlers, right? Let's say Flutter meta 1.7.0, and let's find out. Aha. Okay, so let's go Stack Overflow, and there's an issue about it. Okay, Dart lang issue, and let's see what's going on. Okay. So it depends on it. Let's see. And here they didn't really put a way to resolve it. I know the way because I've already worked through it, but I want to kind of show you the same logic that I went through. Is you can use this thing. They actually had a problem with analyzer. So I wonder if we can say meta. Okay. Okay, well, this package also had issues. Let's see here. Same here. By the way, if you're in YouTube, you don't have to say same here. Whenever you have a problem with something, you just hit that thumb, okay? Because it's not helpful to say same here and create this big thread. Sorry, I clicked on that person's name. Okay. Yeah, so here's what we want to do. We want to do this thing called Dependency Overrides. Okay. So let's, and you got to make sure this is valid, YAML. So we'll say Dependency Overrides, and specifically for us, we need to say, all right, instead of using meta 1.3.0, we need meta 1.7.0, like that. Okay, and you need a colon there because it needs to match how this works, like so. Okay, so the gist is that Flutter, as of this version that it's on here, on the stable channel, uses meta 1.3. Okay, there are other channels, I think like Master or Alpha or something like that, that use this higher version. I don't want to change my channel right now, and this is how you can say, hey, use this higher version. It's a little risky, but I think it's just using a different analyzer, or it allows, you know, this auto route generator and auto route to use a different analyzer, so that's what it's going to do. I forget how I actually found that one, but it's probably like if you like search the exact error message, you might see what it's talking about. Okay, so anyways, that is an error you might see, and that's how you solve it. So let's make sure I'm not lying through my teeth. Let's pubget and see if this works. Okay. Okay, it's just a warning. You're using these overridden dependencies. Okay, process finished. Very, very good. There was one last thing in installing autoroute here. where am I? Okay, it's build runner, and you'll notice build runner, there's some blank text afterwards, but it's blank, okay? And I want to show you, the reason I don't like copying and pasting like this is actually a bad practice. So it's called build_runner. Let's add it the same way we did the auto root generator. Okay, where were we? Terminal. Okay, I'm just going to arrow up. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to change this to build runner. Okay, so I'm adding this as a development dependency. And what you're going to notice is it's going to actually resolve to a particular version. And I want to show you what that looks like. Okay, so it's thinking. Is it doing things? It should be done. Add build runner. There it is. Okay, so it resolved to 2.1.1, and I don't know if I have to do pub get after using that command, because maybe pub add also gets it and updates the pubspec.lock, but I'm just going to do it again for the sake of it. All right, so while that's working, again, there's that warning. We're overriding meta and saying we want to use meta 170. All right, it's done. Build runner, resolve to a version. So here, let's find out what that's all about. Let's open a new tab and say pubspec, or just Flutter package without version. In Flutter, dependencies must specify best way to add package, how to get latest version, create, find a version, and bump. Is it possible to add using packages, package dependencies? Okay, let's do this one. Is this what I want? Path packages, version constraints. Okay. Specifying version constraints lets people using your package know which versions of its dependencies they can rely on to be compatible with your library. I don't want to read all of this, but I do want to show you the caret syntax. That's the best way to do it. I mean, you've seen that with a bunch of different ones already in PubSpec. Traditional syntax. Okay. So a version constraint that uses traditional syntax series of the following. So there's this thing called any. The string any allows any version. This is equivalent to an empty version constraint, but is more explicit. Although any is allowed, we don't recommend it. Okay. So this, in the auto root package, this empty thing is the same thing as saying any. That's what not having anything there looks like. All right, and leaving it blank like that is even worse than doing any, which they don't recommend. Okay, so don't do that. All right, we are going to let it resolve to this number by using flutter pub add the package name --dev. Okay, so now we have installed it, and I think this might be a good place to stop before we go to our next video. So let's see what changes we've made. We've just changed the pub spec, so let's get add-p, expand this so I can see. Okay, this is pubspec.lock. I just want to say when you're adding stuff with dependencies, it's good to read it once and see what's coming in. Okay, so we have our analyzer 2.1.0. Remember, this is the thing that required meta 1.70. Have this thing called args. It looks like that might be used by the auto route generator when we are passing in arguments. So I'm going to say yes to that. This thing is auto route and auto route generator. Okay, so these are added to the lock file. These are the versions. They're the same, 2.3.0. Remember, we had to correct that one because of that meta constraint. Okay. There's a whole bunch of changes here. Build config, build daemon, build resolvers, build runner. That's the one we really added. This is what it resolved to, 2.1.1. Build runner core. Yeah, so this is all about building, right? So later in another video, the next video, I think, we are actually going to generate our route code, or our root code, router code even some people call it. And it's going to use all this building stuff under the hood. Okay, so we're going to add that. Checked YAML. Don't really know what that's used for. CLI util, but I think this all came in with auto route generator. Code builder, let's say yes. Again, you can look through all these. I think it's important that you recognize what libraries are coming in, but once you're okay with it, I'm just going to say A to accept everything in the rest of this file. Then next file, I'm going to look at the differences is pubspec.yaml. So I have auto root 2.3.0, and then I had some dev dependencies, these two here, and then I had to do this dependency override. Okay, so say yes to that. All right, git status. Let's just make sure everything got in there good. Let's say git commit. What did we do in this work? We installed auto root. Okay, and before I do the double quote to close this, I'm going to press enter twice and enumerate in a little more detail what we had to do. So we said flutter pub add auto root, and that got us to 2.3.0. Okay, we use the --dev. Okay, so we can say that we use that, okay? But then, what did we do? Manually updated the generator to let's say from 2.1.0 to 2.3.0, okay? And that was because then we had to override the meta from 1.3.0 to 1.7.0. It's required by Analyzer 2.0, I believe. Okay, and then finally we build runner, right? So we said Flutter pub add build runner --dev, and that resolved to some version, and we want to note here that the auto root package leaves build runner blank, but that's not a best practice. Okay, and so we've resolved it to the version that it is. So now if I say git log, here I have my commit message. Okay, so I've kind of documented for my future self and other developers why the changes got made the way they did. Okay, so I'm going to push this up now. Does that work? Yeah, great. Okay, and I'm just on my main branch, which is fine for now. Okay, next video, let's actually go in and create our routes file, and then we'll generate some routes. Okay, so we'll catch that in the next video. See you there.